Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Here we are at Novelists Unwind once again. And today, our special guest is Betsy St. Amant. And we're very happy to have her. She has written over 15, I think, inspirational romance novels, including several for Love Inspired and for Zondervan and for Ravel. And I think Barber, maybe. I'm not even sure. So I love it when I also write for different publishers, and it's just a lot of fun. Betsy, welcome. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
Oh, we're glad you are. Glad you are. We're here today to talk about your newest novel, The Key to Love. I want to show this to everybody. A very charming story about a baker and a travel journalist, or travel writer. I'm going to let you tell us a little bit about the story, and we want to talk about the inspiration behind the story.
Okay, great. So The Key to Love was first born out of, I wanted to write about love locks. I was always fascinated with the whole concept over in Paris. So I thought, oh, what if I could do something maybe set partially in Paris, partially in the US, and tie this together. I started brainstorming and writing the first chapters, and lo and behold, Paris shut down the love locks over the river in real life. And I thought, man, you couldn't just give me a few more years.
For those who might not know, explain what the love locks are.
They were an icon in Paris for years. I don't remember when they started, but basically the concept was couples could go and clip a padlock on the chain link fence bridge. It's the fence of the bridge over that big river in Paris, and then you would throw your key over into the river, and it was signifying your permanent love, and you would lock it and throw the key. It was symbolic of couples, and I think it just got a little out of control. From what I read, Paris, that it was turning into an eyesore. It was getting dangerous. The fence was kind of buckling under the weight of all that metal, and
oh wow,
it was dangerous, to kind of keep it going. So they took it all down and replaced it with boring glass panels, and ruined my book. So I had to get creative and think, okay, what can I do instead? And I'm so glad it worked out that way, because I love this version so much better, where a little small town baker who is romance obsessed, her name is Bree. She's in the middle of nowhere, Kansas. Story, Kansas is the name of the small town. And she creates her own version of the love lock wall at her little bakery. And the bakery is owned by these matchmaking, eccentric older sisters that are kind of her great aunts. And they are Mabel and Agnes, and they are absolutely my favorite characters in the book.
They are fun.
They're known for matchmaking, and every time they matchmake in this town, they'll hang a padlock on Bree's new love lock wall. So that's kind of what is happening when the story gets started, is that love lock wall has gone viral because of these matchmaking little, they call themselves the Love Angels. They've been on YouTube. And so this Trek magazine sends our hero, Gerard, to come write about the bakery. And that is the last thing he wants to do. He is the opposite of Bree in every way. She's romance obsessed and is holding out for a love story like her parents. And he is very content to be permanent bachelor. Thank you very much. So that's kind of where everything gets started. And that's a little bit about the behind the scenes of kind of where the story first blossomed. I wanted to do an opposites attract trope.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are really fun, a lot of opportunity for conflict. So that was kind of the initial behind the scenes, inspiration.
The story spark, I like to call those. Those are fun. Yeah, that is fun. I think the Brooklyn Bridge has a similar thing, and they don't really want people putting more locks on it too. So it kind of reminded me of that as well.
Yeah. Apparently that's like a thing all over the US. There's little places popping up here and there over the years. People just, it's a fun concept. So
that's cool. So Bree is a baker, like you talked about. Are you a baker too?
That's the funny part. I can Pillsbury cut and bake with the best of them. I grew up surrounded by bakers, and I think that's why I love to tell my stories is I can follow a recipe and it might turn out 50% of the time. But my mom has been just known for her cookies and she makes tea cake cookies every holiday. They're a lot of trouble. So we only get them a couple of times a year, but they're tea cakes with the powdered sugar icing,
Yes.
and they're so cute. And then my aunt was known around Shreveport as the cake lady, and you would hire her for all your birthday cakes and wedding cakes. And so I've just been kind of surrounded in that environment. It didn't quite rub off on me talent-wise, but my daughter is 12 and she loves baking. Last night, actually, she made from scratch these white chocolate chip sugar cookies and made a pumpkin glaze to go over them, and they are fantastic. I was blown away.
Yes, wow.
I think it skipped a generation and went to her.
Wow, that's a flavor combination. I mean, I'm not a baker either, and not much of a foodie either. So, but that flavor combination sounds so intriguing. Wow.
Perfect fall treat for sure. A little bit of pumpkin and cinnamon, and yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That is so cool. Okay, well, we talked, I said in the introduction, like this is like book, I don't even know. You've got around 15 or more inspirational romances written. Tell us about the very first and the beginning and what got you started with writing and all of that.
Yeah, so I started writing when I was 7. Mm-hmm. My dad worked in IT my whole life. That's been his career. So he would always be able to bring home a new computer or something. So he brought home our first family desktop computer, and I'm talking, it was a DOS system.
I've had those.
Yeah, it was bad. I think the program I would type little stories on was called First Choice, and Notepad and stuff. Yeah, it was real funny. Microsoft Word was not remotely invented yet. So I would just write these little stories about a girl and her dog, and, pretty pointless. They had no real plot, but I just loved it. And then I didn't even know at the time this is what I was doing, but I was writing fan fiction. I would read Babysitter Club books and Club, and I'd be like, I'm going to write my own story about Christy and Dawn and Claudia. I didn't even know fan fiction was a thing. I just wanted to do my own, So I kind of just played around with that for a long time. But then when I was a little bit older, early teenager, I read Robin Jones Gunn, one of her Glenbrook series books, and I found it in my sister's room under a wet towel, because that's where she used to pay me to clean her room, so then I would find all these treasures. I found this book and thought, oh, this looks really good, and it was obviously a step up from Babysitter's Club and stuff. And I started reading it and thought, man, I love the romance, and it was clean and it was inspiring, and as a young teenager it gave me that feeling of holding out for a hero and letting the Lord be my, that relationship and that connection and the romance from the Lord first, and just developing all that as you get older and learn what you want and don't want in relationships. And it just stuck with me. And at that point, I decided I want to write books that will give other women that same feeling of hope and encouragement, and don't settle, and hold out for a hero, and that whole thing. So that's kind of where all that was born. And so when I turned 18, I thought, okay, if I'm going to actually be published, I have to do something about this. I have to actually turn my story over to somebody else. I have to take steps. And so I started going to little conferences and local classes, and I went to one conference, and Gail Roper, she's an wonderfly talented author. I don't even know how many books she has now. She's been writing her whole life.
Yeah.
She was teaching the very small little fiction tract of this conference, and I connected with her, and over time she directed me to the ACFW, which is the American Christian Fiction Writers. And that changed everything. The Lord used her to nudge me down that path, and I got an agent. I started making connections, and my first book was published with Love Inspired just a few months after I got my agent, who's Tamala Hancock Murray with the Steve Lobby Agency. Yeah. So it was just kind of a whirlwind from there. I was writing a couple of books a year, and went and did a YA with Barber, and then some contemporary romances, like you were saying, a couple of different publishers. So that's kind of the short story of how it all came to be. But yeah, I'm very grateful to Gail. She calls me her youngest success story.
Oh, that's so sweet. And yeah, how great to have a mentor like that. And ACFW is a wonderful organization for Christian writers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big part of my journey too. But how wonderful though that you know that what your first book was published.
Yeah, so I was
Great.
pregnant with my daughter
Yeah.
when I got the news that we were going to be contracted. So that was she's 12 now, so I guess that was about 13 years ago.
Wow, wow. And Love Inspired, I mean, that's not an easy market to break into. It's, I mean, there's so many books and they put out so many, which is wonderful, but they're not necessarily that easy to write. Yeah, that's
I think I had about 8 or 9 with them
cool.
before I started going more into the trade links
Mm-hmm.
and some of the longer stories. But yeah, I actually started rereading one of my All of Love inspired novels the other day. It's set in the fall, and I just thought, let me just read. And it's so weird going back and reading some of your older work, but it was really fun. It was really fun. A lot of it I didn't even remember writing, so it was kind of like a new story.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Yeah, that's great. Well, I also saw on your website that you write for ibelieve.com. So I just wanted to see, if you wanted to talk about that website for a little bit.
Sure. I believe is a sister site of Crosswalk. And Crosswalk is geared for all audiences, while I believe is geared more directly to women. I'm sure there are some male readers, but the content's usually steered in that direction. And so I wrote for Crosswalk years ago, probably 15 or more years ago. I would write about having been a homeschooled student. I would write about early marriage and all these different things as I got older. And then I believe contacted me and asked if I wanted to contribute to their women's site. And I love it. I love it so much. It's just a good outlet for that passion in my heart of women holding out for heroes and not settling for their love story, and those who are single, or maybe those who are single moms, different situations that I've been in. I can take what I've learned and what the Lord has done in my heart and put that into words and help encourage someone else. And I like to do that with my fiction, but not everyone's a fiction reader. And so now I have kind of 2 outlets for that message, and I'm very blessed to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's really great. I sort of copied a quote that I found from you. So this isn't exact wording, but close. And you wrote, our identities can't be placed in someone else's story, but instead our identity should be in the greatest story ever told. And I just thought that was such a lovely sentiment. So do you want to expand on that or have anything else to say about that?
Yeah, so identity, I think, is so important for women. I think as women, we get really lost in who we are when we become moms. There's that hectic season of taking care of everyone else. And, we can all relate to that in some way or another. And even if we're not mothers, there's just that stress and pressure on us, whether it's career-wise or hobbies or whatever we're doing. I think we tend to make very personal. And so for my novel, The Key to Love, I think of it as a story of identity. So Bree, the heroine, is kind of living out some of the lessons that I've learned that I hope to encourage women with of, where are you getting your identity from? So for Bree, it's always been in her parents' love story and all of her security and everything she believed about love. She had them on this pedestal that she starts to find out might not be entirely accurate. And so that shakes her because it was more important than it should have been. And so it's her journey of kind of figuring that out and realizing that sometimes love doesn't look the way we expect, and everyone has their own story. And so, so with identity, I just really want to encourage women to, first of all, find that identity and that sense of self and accomplishment from the Lord, who gives that to us. We're just not, without that key piece, we're just going to keep searching. And usually that search leads us into drama.
Yes. Well, and you and I were talking about relationships before we started recording, and I know when I was going through separation, divorce, and all of that, the phrase "God's steadfast love" just kept popping up in different places, like in devotions or as I was reading my Bible. And I got to where every time I even came across that in scripture, I was highlighting that phrase, because it just became so important to me. and that's where I feel like my spiritual journey has come through, like you said, it's, wife, mom, all those kinds of things we put our identity in, but this is where it needs to be. And God's steadfast love, it's there no matter what else, it's.
Yes, I love that. That's so inspiring because for me, the repeat message for you, it was steadfast love. Well, for me, it was, I would see hearts. And at first I thought I was going crazy. Why are there hearts everywhere? But I would just post them. This was when I was going through an unwanted divorce and just kind of living out that journey, being a single mom and just overwhelmed, and just needing to feel loved and chosen. And I just started seeing hearts in rocks and the gravel. I would cut a vegetable, and the way the thing sliced, it would look like a heart. I'm like, there's a heart in my bell pepper. Okay. And it was just little things like that. There was one vivid memory. I was pumping gas in my car and just about to fall apart. It was a bad day. I had some drama with my ex. We were in a custody battle. It was just a bad day. And I'm just sitting there trying not to cry, pumping gas and just saying, Lord, like, I got nothing. Like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And I look down, and in a stain on the concrete, there's just the most perfect heart. Oh. And so then I did fall apart, but for good reasons, And it's just, the Lord is so intentional with us whenever we just look for that, and just be open to his blessings in that way. So what was really neat is I started posting on Facebook and social media anytime I would see one. And now, even now, years later, I don't do it as much, but years later, I have women Facebook message me, and they'll have seen a random heart, and they'll take a picture and send it to me and say, I thought of you. And I was like, oh,
so that's precious. That's what a sweet, sweet story. Wow.
Lord works in mysterious ways, for sure.
Sure does. He sure does. I love that. Well, again, I'm so glad you kind of segued back to the key to love, because I want to show the book again. Wonderful, wonderful story. Very just delightful. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I wanted to talk about Casey a little bit, because as you were talking about things and being a single mom and all those kinds of things, one of the characters, Casey, in here, I love her. I absolutely love Casey. So we've got to talk about her for just a moment.
I would love to talk about Casey. So interesting behind the scenes fact, Casey and Nathan in the story are namesakes of a real life friend of mine who had a whirlwind romance, short engagement. They've been married now, about 2 years, I think. So this was a little tribute to them and their whirlwind romance. It's just pretty much a namesake only. Casey in real life was not a single mom or any of those types of details, but it was just a little nod to them. So that was fun. But the Casey in the story, I always like to include some type of, if not a full character, at least a message of, I see you, single mom. Like, I acknowledge you and your struggle, and you are seen and loved, and your story's not over yet, and I appreciated that message that I would find when I was in that stage of life. And so I'm just very sensitive to that. I always want to just put something like that in there, so that if single moms come across my book, maybe they'll have a special note of encouragement. So Casey was very important to me for a lot of reasons, those being two of them. But she was fun to write. She was a little bit of a voice of reason.
Yes.
They had very opposite viewpoints on love, and she kind of serves as a way of showing Bree kind of how judgmental Bree can be with some of her assumptions of how love should look. She's just kind of got these blinders on, Bree does, of XYZ, this is love. And Casey kind of shook that up for her a little bit, as does our hero, Gerard, of course. Wow. So yeah, I love Casey. She's
fun. Yeah, I don't want to give spoilers away, but I love the proposal. I love the way that worked out. So we won't tell you what it was. You have to read the book, but it's really adorable. So
thank you. That was fun.
Absolutely loved it. So once again, Key to Love, Betsy St. Amant. So glad to have you here today. My final question always is, when you're all done, you've hit the end, book is finished, what do you do to unwind?
Oh, goodness. In this case, I was kind of in the middle of a 2-book contract. So kind of time to start the next one. But, there's there's just that feeling, just that weight lifted off of you of like, I did it again. I wrote a whole book, and you're just kind of blown away, and you're thankful to the Lord for giving you that endurance, because we all want to quit at some point. I think I have yet to meet an author, so correct me if I'm wrong. You will be the first, but I've yet to meet an author who does not at some point in their story think, this is horrible. I need to have a total career change. I can't do this. This is not going to happen. I just need to throw this away. I think we all get there at some point in our books.
I'm kind of going through that right now, and it's like, oh, I just got to finish this book. It's so hard.
Yes. So when you get past that, and then you get to the other side and you're done, you think, oh, it's just such a sigh of relief. So I think to celebrate, I normally just unplug for a couple of days and try to play more board games with my kids, and just try to, there's usually chocolate involved at some point.
Chocolate's a popular answer.
I would say there's coffee, but there's always coffee. So that's nothing new.
Well, thank you, Betsy, so much. This has been just a delight to talk to you and hear your story.
It's good to be here. Oh, and I'd love to give a very brief plug. I have a second book coming out with Revell next October, 2021. It is unrelated. It's total standalone, but another contemporary romance. And we're getting out of the bakery a little bit this time. We're getting into a food truck. So I'm not cleared to release the title just yet, but I can tell you that it's You Meets Food Truck Wars. So I'm really excited about it.
Say that one more time, because I think we had a little bit of a glitch. So tell us again.
Okay, it's You've Got Mail meets Food Truck Wars.
Oh, that's fun. I love You've Got Mail. That's such a cool.
The best.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that one coming out next year, and I hope readers enjoy getting to know Bree and Gerard along the way.
Yes, yeah. And we didn't even talk about Jane Austen. So, I mean, I love those references too. So we probably could chat another hour, but
yeah.
Thanks, Jane Austen.
For having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Thanks everybody for watching. See you next time on Novelists Unwind. Bye-bye.